We have Phillip Dukes, boots on the ground in Boulder, Colorado. It's a primetime showdown. Colorado hosting Cincinnati. Phillip Dukes from the 5-Star Flex on this On3 Recruits channel. Dukes, what's happening?
Hey, it's electric out here, man. People have been tailgating all day. The excitement is at a fever pitch, and they want to see Colorado become bowl eligible out here in Boulder.
Yeah, they're looking to be 6-2. Cincinnati also 5-2, rebounding this season. Dukes, what all have you been able to do at Colorado? Is this your first time out there?
Yeah, it's my first time, man. I was able to go on campus. Got the tour. I got a really nice tour of the campus, the facilities. Colorado's facilities are second to none. It's just a lot of cool things to do, a lot of nuance out here as far as just being a. There's a different feeling out here. I talk to recruits all the time, and they say, man, when you see the mountains, when you see the scenery, when you see the people, it gives you a different feeling out here in Colorado, and I felt it all day today.
Yeah, Dukes, who'd you have showing you around?
I can't really tell you that.
Gotcha.
but
I
I,
just wanted to give some props to some of those off-field folks that are working hard for them. They got one of the
oh,
best off-field recruiting staffs in the country. Corey Phillips, Devin Rispress, Coach
yeah.
Box. Those are guys that are really doing a lot of the communicating for Colorado right now because these coaches are knee-deep in the season. Now, when they get on campus, they get around Deion Sanders. He is as electric a personality as you're going to find. Makes you feel so good about being at Colorado. He's very charming. But these guys that I mentioned, they're kind of the glue between the coaching staff. And then when you get to campus, their staff does such a great job on campus.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Coach Richards is A1. When you talk about the actual position coaches, guys like Coach Flea, Coach Loholt, like they've got guys who have charisma. The analysts that are on campus, like they have something really cooking out here. And the reason I said I couldn't say it earlier is because um, I was privy to a couple of conversations earlier where I feel like I would have gave some away if I said it. But I'll just say it's going to be an exciting night and an exciting week in recruiting for Colorado, from what I'm hearing.
Nice. Well, one recruit that I think Colorado's in a great position for is 4-star receiver Adrian Wilson. He's from the state of Texas. He was committed to Arizona State, locked in this visit to Colorado, and decommitted from the Sun Devils. One thing that I think talking to him really excites him about Colorado is this air raid offense, multiple receivers on the field, the ball being sprayed all over. I know he loves the offense. Quentin Gibson, him and Adrian Wilson, both averaging over 20 yards a catch here as a senior. Quentin Gibson has 20 catches, over 25 yards per grab, 10 touchdowns right now for Fort Worth North Crowley High. He's a mighty mite. 5'9", but you put the ball in his hands, he can light up the scoreboard. And Dukes, when Colorado's recruiting a high school player, they envision these guys playing for them right away.
Yeah, absolutely. They want guys that are ready. When you look at the quarterbacks they're recruiting, you're not looking at a lot of guys who project or projects. You're looking at guys who already have the moxie to come in and play day one. When you talk about a guy like Julian Lewis, you saw them stop in and go check on a guy like Keelan Russell. Now, when you get to the receivers, when you think about a guy like Quanell X or Quanell Farrakhan, and then as you talked about Adrian Wilson, these are guys who know how to get open. And I think one of the things that goes underrated about the guys that they're recruiting, especially in the wide receiver position, is how they really understand X's and O's. When they come to Colorado, they're talking ball. It's not just, social media and Instagram, as some people may have you think. They're talking ball, and they're understanding an NFL offense from Pat Sherman. So I think when Colorado is offering early playing time for blue collar guys who do it the right way.
Yeah, Coach Phillips, the receivers coach over there, doing a good job building relationships with these guys. Coach Lodeholt, who's from the Bill Bedenbaugh coaching tree, came from Oklahoma. Bill Bedenbaugh, arguably the top offensive line coach in the country at Oklahoma. Now you have Coach Lodeholt at Colorado, recruiting Carday Smith. Went and saw him during Colorado's bye week. This is his second game visit to Colorado this year. I know there was a lot of buzz about Colorado having a great chance to flip him coming out of the first visit, currently committed to USC. But I think Colorado's in a great spot here. What are you hearing about the Buffaloes and Carday Smith? You recently had him on your 5-Star Flex show on this On3 Recruits channel.
Yeah, I get great vibes. I talked to him a little earlier, talked to his mom, and they're enjoying their trip. It's everything that they expected. The things that they're hearing about development, as Carter, we know, is a guy who's more of a guy who his physical profile, he hasn't played a ton of football, but what you've seen in the time that he has played has tantalizing college coaches. That's why USC wanted him, Auburn wanted him, and now you've got Colorado who has him on the ropes. I think that I'm not sure if it gets done tonight, but I definitely have him on flip watch as somebody that Colorado broke out a spatula for.
No question, man. I love that word spatula. It's spatula season. I think that Colorado has a great chance to flip Carde Smith too. Before we get to the main event of this section of the Recruit Reaction Show, Quanell Farrakhan X had a big game last night, a game-winning touchdown reception for Houston North Shore. He's physically ready to come in and play. Mantrez Walker having a strong senior season for Buford down there in your home state. What have you seen from Mantrez?
Man, Mantrez has done a lot in pass coverage. I think this year that's something that some college coaches wanted to see how he was going to be. Would he be susceptible in pass coverage? And he's done a bang up job playing the best. Like when they played, he's playing the 7A ball, which is the best alignment in Georgia high school football. And I think that what he's doing is now he's raising his stock, and Colorado is fighting to keep him. There are some schools that have been contacting Mantrez Walker from his senior season. He's having a great season. I think another thing on a pro level, what we talk about when we talk about a guy like Mantrez is he's the guy that you want with the green dot. He can get as far as the microphone that tells everybody else where to be. He's that type of guy. He's a green dot mic type guy, and usually those guys aren't able to hold up on third downs. He's proven this year that he's a 3-down backer, and I expect for him to have a successful season, a, a successful transition more so when he gets to Colorado.
Five-star quarterback Julian Lewis is back in Boulder for the fourth time this year. Committed to USC, National Gatorade Player of the Year finalist as a sophomore, reclassifies. He wins Gatorade Player of the Year in the Peach State as a Georgia. No sophomore has ever won that prestigious award. He has Carrollton in the mix to win the national championship, state championship. Obviously, your state, Dukes, where have you seen Julian Lewis grow as a passer from sophomore to skip to senior year, because there is no junior year with this young man?
I think his response to adversity. I think anytime that we've seen Julian in the past, if you like, you can pretty much tell what games they lost because they came with a turnover. Now, if you see Julian, he may make a mistake against the Parker game. He gives up the interception to Naeem Offer, and he got better as the game went on. Against Woodward, he didn't have a great start. He got better as the game went on. Usually, Julian was the type of guy where he came out, he just cut you up, carve you up from the first snap. Well, even now where teams know what he does, they know who he is, and they're starting to gear up for him, he's taking that information like a prize fighter, and he's counterpunching, and that's something I hadn't seen from him before. Like, we always talk about words like moxie and the intangibles, but he has it in spades. He's the type of guy who doesn't get rattled, and this year you're seeing it more as now he's the leader. As you said, he didn't have a junior season. He went from freshman to sophomore. He was like before this season, he had no experience as an upperclassman. So to see him take that jump a year early and him to be able to rally the troops on such a talent-laden squad, when you look at it, you got D1 corners, you got D1 linemen, you got D1 running backs. I mean, that squad is loaded. So it takes a real leader and somebody with some real with the real sense of leadership in order to guide a team like that. That nobody really expected to be maybe one of the top 1 or 2 teams in the country, but that's now within reach, and they could challenge Mater Dei.
Well, his freshman year, he threw for over 4,000 yards in Georgia's biggest class, 48 touchdowns. Dukes played against Caleb Downs and company in Mill Creek in the state title game, and they scored enough points to win that day. But Mill Creek was a well-oiled machine that year. But this year, his completion percentage is up to over 76% through 9 games, throwing for 2,259 yards and 34 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions for Julian Lewis. He will have a chance to be the National Gatorade Player of the Year this year. Colorado, obviously their top target. When I look at his recruitment, he's committed to USC, but he's got Indiana and Colorado in the mix. I think when you talk about which program does he has the best chance to start at as a true freshman, I look at Colorado. That doesn't mean he can't go into Indiana or USC and compete. And we've seen Lincoln Riley bench a future NFL quarterback in Spencer Rattler for Caleb Williams. So the best man can win under Lincoln Riley. But I think one of the biggest cards in Colorado's hand is the opportunity to come in and be the heir apparent for Shedeur Sanders, but also the lightning rod that's on the program, the microscope, and what comes with that from a positive standpoint. There's some negativity with that too, but every program has that to a certain degree. But I think he sees an opportunity to be one of the faces of college football right away in year one at Colorado.
Well, when you look at somebody like Juju, who's been the guy since he can remember, ever since he picked up a football, the word started to spread in Little League football in Atlanta. I've been knowing about him for years. He's media trained. He doesn't say a whole lot because he knows he's very measured in what he says, like a lot of child stars are. He's the equivalent of somebody who may have been on a sitcom at 8, 9 years old. That's the type of microscope he's been under his whole life as a quarterback. So now when you think about the fishbowl that Colorado is, who is better prepared in the country than a guy who's been actually had that type of attention his whole life as a football player? When you think about the marketing opportunities that go along with that, with him having to deal with Travis Scott, who's one of the most recognizable faces in the culture, what we quote unquote the culture, Julian fits right in. When you talk about what he does on the football field, the way he takes care of the ball, doesn't turn it over, throws a very catchable ball, he's really one of the guys that when you look at this class, you say, who actually fits the best to come in and help now? Because this isn't a development situation. This is a help now. And I think that Coach Prime is one of the guys that says, if you can carry the load, we'll give it to you. And I'm not sure that other schools are going to have the same opportunity for him the way Colorado does. And I think that's why he's here today.
Yeah, no question. And he's had great conversations with Coach Shermer, likes the offense. I talked to them after they visited for spring football, and they saw all the weapons on the field and that ball being whipped around. I don't think there's any surprise with the Lewis camp, the way Colorado's playing offense this year, on the verge of bowl eligibility. Dukes, do you think he visits Indiana for the Michigan game? And if so, do you think he makes a final decision shortly after that? Do you think a final decision could come sooner? What do you think his timeline is as he continues to work through his process?
I think it's fluid, man. Just to be honest, because I think going into the season, a lot of people were expecting the decision to be like another statement to be made towards the beginning of the high school football season, and we thought that it probably would have been shut down. A lot of people in the know did, but that didn't happen. And I think as things start to develop, like I'm not sure that how much different does Indiana look now with the type of season they're having. So there are more things to consider. How much different does Colorado look now with the season that they're having? So yeah, I think if you go into the season, like going into the season, it looked like one really playoff contender in USC and 3 schools that were looking to get into that range, which was Auburn, Indiana, and Colorado. So now you have 2 teams that arguably have playoff. You could put playoff contender at this point in their name. Now there's a ton of people in the field, and a lot of things will have to go right. But if Colorado and Indiana both ran the table, they would both be in the playoffs. So I think that's something that you didn't consider going into the season. And I think that's having an effect on why they're taking their time and they're making sure they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's. But I do think he'll visit Indiana for the Michigan game. Now that's just my opinion. I don't have a source on that. But me just reading the tea leaves, that's what I would expect. But I know this family. I know TC very well, and I know if the feeling is right, he could pull the trigger or just shut it down at any moment.
Yeah, speaking of if the feeling is right, what are you hearing on his visit so far? He got into Boulder on Friday night, so he's been there almost 24 hours and maybe a little over as I talk to you right now.
Business minded, right? Trying to make sure that this is the place. If Colorado is the place, understanding everything that's going to come with it. He knows a lot about the offense, but now he's going into the fine tuning, looking at his highlights this year and how some of the throws that he's made would fit into the Colorado offense and things that he likes, checks that he likes, situational football. These are the things that you don't really talk about, like when you're just being wooed and recruited. But when you're getting down to the nitty gritty, these are the things that are important. How much is he going to run? How much RPO are you going to run? So I think now this is more. Now it's a great trip. They're having a good time, but I think they're business minded here because they're coming. This is the final lap for them, and I think they want to make sure they get as much information as they can.
Hey, Dukes, show us with your phone the ambiance around Boulder right now? What can we see? Are you
I'm
in
trying to see if I trying to see how to flip my camera. Hold on.
yeah.
Let me see. Okay, so we're just in the front, man. So you just look
Yeah.
at, you can see the mountains in the background,
Yeah.
and then from here we're in the front, Colorado, Folsom Field. I'm sure if you can see the front right
Yeah,
here.
I can see it. Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
great,
man.
man.
No, it looks amazing, man. I can't wait. Matter of fact, I might call you back when I go inside.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Dukes. That's Phillip Dukes from the 5-Star Flex. Make sure you're hitting like and subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel so you can get all the latest episodes of the 5-Star Flex with Phillip Dukes. I know he's going to have a great episode coming out of this visit to Colorado. Phillip, thanks for coming on. I'm going to bring in Hayes Fawcett to talk a little bit of Colorado and Julian Lewis and some of these other names. What catches your eye about this big recruiting weekend for the Buffs?
Steve, I said it twice with Indiana, with Miami. Colorado's winning, man. I mean, what are they, 5-2 right now? About to have a big game against 5-2 Cincinnati as well. Big recruits in this weekend. I'm sure it's buzzing in Folsom. I mean, looked amazing with what we saw from Dukes, and I'm sure the recruits are feeling the same energy that we see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I talked about Julian Lewis in the Indiana segment, but if you're just watching the Colorado segment, I'm just going to kind of put it all out there. I do think, like Duke said, he'll visit Indiana for the Michigan game. As things stand now, his relationship with Tino Sunseri, Indiana's co-offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, is second to none. Tino Sunseri had Julian Lewis in camp at Florida State when he was 8 or 9 years old. The family hit it off and clicked, stayed in touch. Tino Sunseri was working in an analyst role at Alabama before he took an on-field role with Curt Cignetti and company at James Madison. If Tino Sunseri was still at Alabama, I think Julian Lewis would be committed to Alabama. That's how tight they are. I also think that Tino Sunseri was like, look, dude, you're committed to USC. Don't make any final decisions before your senior year. Watch how your finalists play in the fall. So that would be USC, Indiana, and Colorado, and just get a feel for, because look, Tino just loves Julian Lewis. He wants him to be happy. Certainly he wants to coach him at Indiana, but his advice was just watch your finalists play. You don't need to make a final decision now. And certainly for him, Indiana, they're 8-0, they're top 10 offense, they're top 10 defense. They haven't had a record like this since 1967, since they've been in the Rose Bowl. But Colorado, look, they're trying to make a run at the college football playoff. Deion Sanders said in the preseason that's their goal. They're looking for bowl eligibility tonight against Cincinnati, but they're looking for a playoff push. If playing in year one is important to Julian Lewis, I think he's got the best shot to do that as a true freshman at Colorado. That does not mean to say that he couldn't win the job at USC. We've seen Lincoln Riley give that job to Caleb Williams over Spencer Rattler at one point. Certainly he knows what Lincoln Riley's done historically. We've talked about it a ton with the Heisman Trophy winners, the #1 pick. That's why he's committed to the Trojans. But Colorado, Pat Shurmur, he's really vibed with him. He went there in the spring, saw an offense that was high octane in practice. That has resonated to the field this fall. And then just the popularity that Shedeur Sanders has, for him to go into a program that Deion Sanders, he's an electric figurehead to your program. For Julian Lewis to play on that stage, he would be one of the faces of college football in year one if he could come in and win that job. So I think there's reasons why he could end up at all three. He took 2 visits to USC this year. I think there was some confidence coming out of both those visits that he would stick with USC, but it seems that they have their hands full with Colorado and Indiana. He's been at Colorado since Friday night. Thanks for watching the Recruit Reaction Colorado part of the show. Please hit like and subscribe to this video. Comment, will Colorado land Julian Lewis? Who else will they land from this weekend? I think Adrian Wilson. Don't be surprised if I'm predicting Carday Smith soon to Colorado as well. Like and subscribe. Comment below.